Okay, so Taki and Joey, thank you for being here and welcome to the inaugural episode of this podcast. So
Inaugural.
Yay.
Oh,
yeah,
here we
yeah,
go.
it's exciting. A lot of trials and errors, I think, but thank you so much for being here. So I'll just get right into it. So the beginnings of Taka and Joey's adventures were actually at ICU, which funny
Yep.
story, I'm also from ICU, so that was like a link that we had prior to meeting. But you guys met like more than 10 years ago now, right? In 2010-ish?
2010, I
Yeah.
think.
Okay, 2010. Could I ask what your first impressions were of each
Oh,
other? And
I
how
got
is
a good
it
one.
and how is it different to like your impressions
I know
before
I know the
now?
story he's gonna tell.
Okay, Taka,
All
you go
right.
first then.
First impressions. I'm doing a 1 year study abroad, so I went to school in UCSD. So I never studied in Japan, and this was like I was doing the OYR experience, so coming in for I think summer course. It was like one of my first days on campus, and I knew I was going to be in 2MD. So I literally rocked up to 2MD, which is a very second men's dorm, which is a very, very old, definitely demolished before you got there, Risa. Kind of little ghetto kind of building. And, it's a I know it's a Japanese men's dormitory. So as I walk up, I see Joey in a wife beater, gold chain, working like greased up, working on his moped outside of the 2MD dorm. And I'm just like, is this Japan? And Joey said hi to me and I just talked to him in English. I was like, whoa, this is crazy. So that was my first encounter with Joseph Stockerman's here. I think he also had the same like buzzed head, gold
Probably
chain,
buzzed.
wife beater, greased up. So first impression.
Look,
There you go.
look, yeah, look, I loved that moped. It was a Suzuki Karna, 1989 Suzuki Karna. I said it was the same age as me. It was actually 1 year younger than me, but I told everybody it was the same age as me. So I was the dormitory president at that time. So dormitory had this hierarchy system, and the dorm president was none of these roles did much. They had like different members of the dorm government. None of them did very much, but the dorm president had a really fun role, which was being part of this one ritual. It was basically a fraternity, I would say, the like one of the rare
Yep.
fraternities in Japan. And as the dorm president, you do this one ritual called Jingi, which is where I don't know much about Yakuza culture, but I think it's some sort of mock Yakuza kind of thing where the new people, so Take, the new students coming into the dormitory, they would get in a line in front of the dormitory president and the other members of the cabinet, and they'd get in this kind of stance thing, and there's like a lot of kind of ritual yelling back and forth. But the idea is they need to do a joke. They need to please the head honcho of the whole operation, which was me, having to be me at that time. So
It's
I
such a
was very
frat, like it's like hazing in a way.
yeah,
isn't
it
it?
it, it, it
Really, it
is.
really was. Very
Yeah.
hazing like.
Yeah.
So that was me at the time meeting Take. But yeah, no, I am very glad to have met Take at that point in time. I completed all my studies in my first 3 years there at ICU. And so my fourth year, which is the year when Take came to join us, traditionally, like most people party in their first year. I had my fourth year completely free. So I was a very nerdy student in my first 3 years. And then my fourth year, I had a lot of free time. So I made a lot of friends with the exchange students and the 1 year students that were there at that time. So that's how I became good friends with Take. We both kind of were in this phase where we wanted to enjoy our time at ICU.
Hey,
Yep.
Joey in a wife beater with a buzz cut working on his
Gold, gold chain. I remember the
gold
gold
chain,
chain.
gold chain.
Yep.
I don't remember
Wow.
my very first impression of Take, but one thing I do remember is you knew a lot of like drinking games. Like you brought a lot of the game culture. Like Japanese people love to drink. That was nothing new, but a lot of the game culture, I feel like Take personally brought to the dormitory. So wizard staff and different types of ping
Beer
pong
pong.
games, beer
Ping
pong.
pong game, beer pong game. There we go. I brought a lot of the San Diego frat culture, I'd say, to Japan that year.
Oh, okay. I
That
see.
was an early memory with me of Take was like, okay, this guy likes the games.
We're in a big game right now, Joey. AkiyaMart. Let's go.
So how does that differ from how you know of each other now then?
I think it's we're still the same people. I think Joey and I've done we've seen a lot of each other throughout different segments of our life, but I'd say we're still the same people at the core. Joey's still a mechanic. He's still working on his Forerunner and trying to revive something. I'm still trying to get people to drink and play games kind of thing. We're kind of the same beast, I would still say, but I don't know. Joey agrees with that, but
I think so too. I think like a lot of there's aspect like when we hang out, I don't know, go on a trip or something together, I do see like a lot of the trust that we have with each other is has been built because of all those, I don't know, episodes that we've had together. And I do agree that I think we are still that same person that met at those dormitories at the dormitory all those years ago. And I feel like that being that consistent friend to each other has been part of what has made our friendship strong.
Yeah, because that's like a decade, more than a decade of friendship. So you guys met each other at like your late teens or like early 20s, like super early 20s, and
drinking age, basically.
drinking.
The start of the drinking age.
That's beautiful. I'll go to the next question, which is so the two of you have had a certain like goen, like a fate, like a connection, like a red string connection to Japan, and launched AkiyaMart to make the home buying process more accessible to Western UI trained folks like yourselves and myself too. It's been over a year since your launch and 7 months since that viral post on LinkedIn, which is how I discovered you guys actually. How has your vision for AkiyaMart changed from when you first launched and how you envision it now?
Hmm.
So it has changed quite a bit. So when I started working on AkiyaMart in May 2023, so a little over a year ago, and at that time it was just supposed to be like another like there's a few other competitors out there that are like subscription newsletter to Japanese property, and that's all I was trying to do. I thought slip in as another one of these people there, or potentially build a website that had an interactive map and then sell it to one of these people. So that's really how it started. It was a project I was working on myself. And it actually, I never thought it would grow into even half of what it is today. And I do feel like it was Take that was the one that was always, this is sick, dude. Like this, kind of thing. I do truly believe that it was that kind of motivation. Like I wasn't dreaming. I was constraining my dream. I do feel like,
Mm,
and I think a lot of Take's motivation early on really convinced me that sets my sights a little bit higher. And then, yeah, just we discussed one day. I was just like, all right, man, let's do this completely 50-50. Like, let's both get in on this. And I do think, yeah, and I'm thankful for that early motivation because I might have given up on the idea. I wasn't getting much traction selling it as a subscription newsletter.
Yeah, and going back to since the post, I think we had no idea that there was this tidal wave of other people in the same kind of boat as us that wanted to buy in Japan, and it was really difficult for them to figure out how to do so. I think we started out as just a search and discovery site, and most recently we have been trying to help people through the buying process. And it's interesting. It just one thing keeps leading to the next. We're really just trying to follow what customers want and actually what we want. So buying cars, doing renovation, and it shows that there's a really big gap in the market. We didn't intend to go down this route, but this is just naturally we're trying to help people. And as we help people, we're building processes and becoming almost soon to be, hopefully, subject matter experts on how to get there. So we're dreaming bigger now. Again, we started this side business in January. We thought we'd make some money off Google Ads. Now we're starting to see, holy crap, there's like a whole blue ocean of things we can do here.
Yeah, we had
hey.
ads on the website at one point.
Well,
They're bad luck. But we
I,
we think we can help solve some of the Akiya Mondai in Japan too. There's two sides of the coin here where I think we're able to help the foreigners buy, but also from the Japanese side, we've been talking to more Japanese folks who really are like, you guys have the opportunity of maybe not solving, but like taking a huge dent in the problem and helping this big societal problem in Japan.
Mhm.
Yeah, just to go off on that one individual that we're working with now, what he does, he claims that he's bought over 2,000 Akiyas in Japan. And what he does is he purchased these Akiyas and he thinks his secret sauce is being able to negotiate down the price, negotiate with the contractors, basically do everything for very cheap. And then what he does is he puts the houses back on the market, for under market rates and gets maybe elderly people or people that have a hard time finding affordable, good quality housing in Japan, and he gets those renters in. He's a little bit of a philanthropist, and he believes that he can make a profit while doing this, and at the same time as giving back to Japan and making sure these under what's the right
Like
word?
lower income
Yeah,
folks.
lower income individuals can find a safe place to live. So we're actually working with him on one property. So we'll see where that goes.
Wow, that's fantastic. I mean, he does serve like a different crowd from what AkiyaMart usually helps, but I don't know. It's interesting because when I like listen to your podcasts and your interviews and your articles, it's usually like, oh, Take and I, it's usually like Joey saying it, I think. And it's, oh, Take and I were working on this project because we wanted to get a place and we found that it was really difficult. But I didn't know that it was actually Joey who started tinkering with things. And then Take was like, hey, we might be able to commercialize this and solve a greater problem.
Yeah, I think it was all in tandem actually when we first started looking for our place in Beppu. So I think it's interesting how it progressed, but it did, I think, at its very origin start with like us wanting to look for a place and having struggles with finding a place with Japanese websites.
うんうんうん。なるほどね。
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, I could go on a rant about Japanese websites for for a long time, but yeah, that is where a lot of the webs the this whole issue came from, and that's why those Instagram accounts do so well because there's no Japanese websites out there catering to foreign, or not many, or a lot of them are focused on Tokyo or focused on the rental markets. So there, we saw an opening, I think, as well.
oh, I see. So you're
Mhm.
talking about like the Instagram sites that like show these reels or these shorts of let's look into this apartment in the tiny home apartment and so you kind of
Yeah, people are excited about Japanese property, and that's the only way that they can get see these properties is through those Instagram accounts, just because they're not going to go to sumo.jp or athome.co.jp and try to navigate those websites. I just know, but no, they're not going to do it.
I'm sure that you both have scoured your fair share of Japanese websites. Can you give me like 3 points of why
Oh
it's
boy.
hard for a Western UI trained person like ourselves?
Yeah, I'll
To
go first,
navigate.
and
Yeah, yeah.
Joey's got like 1,000 on his list. But being Western, we and in the United States, we look at Zillow and Redfin, and that kind of becomes like our gold standard. So moving directly to the Japanese side is like, whoa, what the heck? So one, can't read kanji well, and kanji is just so hard. So as a foreigner, I can imagine someone who's never been to Japan is just like, what am I looking at here?
So
Two, combined with the
sorry, so
yen.
there's no like
Mhm. Yeah.
English version of the site at all?
You can translate, like right click and translate via Google, but it's not great. And it also is just like a little bit, it's hard to decipher sometimes. So that's one big thing. The second is the yen to dollar conversion. I don't know. I like math, but I don't love doing every single conversion. What does that mean in dollars and what's square meters to feet?
Yeah.
I know metric system here, but those are
If
two
so, if
big
someone's
things. And the
like,
last,
oh, it's 1.2 billion yen, and it's like, well, I don't know how much that is.
yeah. And the very last thing, I think the map based UI is way better. Like, just, I'm a big surfer. Joey's a big surfer. We initially started this search looking for something on the coastline and just being able to scroll and zoom in and be like, okay, this looks like a good spot where swell might come in and might have a good surf spot. So I think those three things were big things we wanted to improve. But I'll pass it off to Joey. What things grind your gears about Japanese websites?
It's just the usability. I think my more controversial opinions are why I think Japanese websites are the way they are. But I think Tag hit the nail on the head with it. It comes down to the usability. Like a lot of things on their websites, like for example, if you go on at home and you try to use you have to click maybe 15 times before you get to the map. But once you get to the map, you can't zoom out all the way and see properties. They only start showing properties once you're zoomed in. So if you the problem that foreigners have is they don't know where they're looking. They just want to see it all. They want to find something exciting. They don't know that they're looking for a house in this. I do feel like the just Japanese customer might be more like, oh, okay, I want to buy something in this town in Yamanashi because that's where I grew up or something like that. So maybe they don't run into these issues where I do feel like more Western people, they just want to explore. They just want to explore. They don't know exactly the location or the specifics of the house up front, which is the way these websites kind of force you to start specifying all your criteria first before you see the house. Whereas I think Westerners, yeah, they just want to explore.
確かに。That's true. They're coming at it from a very different context and background. I think only a very small portion of people who have been to Japan probably know that they want to live in Beppu. So, what are some things from Japanese websites then that you think are good and worth implementing into Western websites then?
There's a fine. So I think Japanese UI in Japanese culture, and we're finding in some real estate, is very conservative and making sure that they give you all the information and tell all the liability so it's not on them. I think there's a fine balance. The US does the opposite where they just show you like just the bare essentials, I would say. So I think there's pros and cons of that. If we're really looking at, hey, I want to know if this is a landslide zone or what are all the details, it's sometimes hard to navigate and find that in the US. So I do think there is a fine balance, and Japanese sites go overboard, in my opinion, on giving you too much information. But it is helpful if you're an investor or you really want to know every detail.
Yeah, no, it's true.
That's funny. Okay, we'll go on to the next question. The
Right.
AkiyaMart name really grew when it was featured on Business Insider, I think. And I think Take mentioned that in the beginning, with things like Barely Ready, you guys launched and just started talking to customers that reached out, averaging 6 hours of consultation calls per day, just trying to understand people's needs. I think this is often advised by folks at Y Combinator that the best way to approach building 0 to 1 as well, which is just by talking and understanding people's needs, right? Would you recommend this approach in the beginning phases for building a business, or would you do anything differently now?
Definitely. I think it's been so valuable speaking to as many customers as we have spoken to, and especially early on when we had the free consultations and me and Tage were just on the phone for maybe it was 3 weeks straight, maybe not three, definitely 2 weeks, maybe two and a
Brutal.
half weeks straight, just our whole day was talking to people. And I do hear that entrepreneurial advice as well. Like you have to talk to your customer. You have to talk to your customer. I don't know if we did it exactly. It's okay. We're going to do this customer research and then we'll have the research and then we'll know what to build kind of thing. I feel like it was more organic than that. It didn't set out that way. Why did we put the consult even in the first place, Take?
We didn't have any call to action. So we had all these listings and we're like, oh, shoot, what do people do? And I think we just slapped it up there. But I think, Lisa, back to your question, I think we're in the zone of just getting something out there, having an MVP. And it definitely was not perfect. It was, we look back on it now and just are a little embarrassed by what we were thinking for these things. But it got us out there. And I think taking that action over inaction and not overthinking, is this perfect, is kind of the downfall for probably a lot of startups. And I think Joey definitely values the let's just ship it. Joey, I forgot what you said, but you're just like, what did you say about it?
I don't know. I was going to say something that you always say, which is we're building
Okay.
the plane as we're flying it. We used to say
Okay.
that a lot more. I feel like now the plane is somewhat built at this point, but yeah, I really like that. I think that does embody a lot of our approach to AkiyaMart is building the plane as we're flying it. Like I do feel like AkiyaMart Direct, which is a new service we have, which is helping people actually purchase property now. That really I was a little nervous to start that because it's like, all right, we're about to get on a phone call with someone and tell them that we can help them buy a property. And it's like, all right, we have talked to our real estate agents, but putting those pieces together for the first time before you've done it, it feels like you have nothing and you're half lying to this person that you have this whole pipeline of how it works when you're like that person doesn't know that their customer number zero here, customer number one, that part of starting a business does feel like you're building the plane as you're flying it. But after you get a few people through the door, you really do have that pipeline all of a sudden and you feel much more confident with what you're doing.
And I think it's empowering it's just me and Joey. We're not afraid to be embarrassed or put something out that doesn't. If we work at a larger company, you have to go through checks and balance, make sure it hits a certain threshold. We had nothing to lose. It was just like, let's throw it out there, see what happens. And I think that kind of mentality has gotten us to where we are now. We're just trying new things every day. And if it doesn't work, worst case, we go back to the original. I think I've been reading some of the lean startup and they talk a lot about just like doing a lot of A/B testing, do a lot of, try something new. And if it doesn't work, at least you've tried it. So we've tried a lot of smaller products on AkiyaMart that haven't worked out, but it's gotten us one step closer to knowing about the space. And I think one step closer to a better product.
Mm, mm, mm.
Just one more thought on that. like I've only worked for larger companies in my life, 500 people at least in a company. And it does feel very much the new feature that you're building or the new product, it's planned out for a certain period of time. Then you're building it and there's like a launch date and everybody's getting ready for the launch date. Like someone hits the button, like it's all very much a lot of fanfare. And it's oh, okay, now the product is launched kind of thing. Starting your own business, especially when it's just like the two of us and we're just trying to get a product together for this very first customer, it does feel very much more like it's like you're talking to somebody and you're like, hey, I can do a lot more. I don't know. There's not the fanfare, but I guess what I'm trying to say is you don't need that fanfare. Like you can make a product out of nothing. And if this person agrees, hey, that sounds like a good idea, like I'm willing to pay you this money for that, like all of a sudden you do have that's all it takes to have the product. And, we've launched a few things like that. Some of them didn't work, so we had to take them down, but some of them have worked. And then that's where you start a little bit more fleshing it out.
なるほどね。What is like kind of the you said you launched like small products and small features in the past as well. What is, from a very overhead view, what is the process? You ideate or you hear this desire, this need from a customer, and then if you can walk me through, that would be very interesting.
Yeah, there's a couple paths. Joey and I, we have a lot of brainstorm bad ideas, I'd say. And sometimes we're just like, let's just try it. Let's see how it works. And let's put this button up or put something up that, is just organic from us brainstorming. But I think a majority of what we've now been led down the path is just like what the customer wants. What are the friction points that we can make this process easier? One example, we launched a product called AkiyaMart Research, where we would have our friends, our ICU friends, call agents and try to do video tours with them because people wanted to see the inside of homes, and
Mhm.
it was hard to get an agent to fully commit. So we tried that. It didn't work. Luckily, our ICU friends were really cool. We just paid them a little bit of money to jump on the phone for us. But ultimately, going back to your question, it was just following what the customer wants and what we think would be helpful and what's needed in this whole transaction process.
Mhm. なるほど. It's literally like the try it and then iterate and then maybe don't launch it and then launch something else that's cooler and fits more needs, and it's like
Well,
the
Yeah, but
yeah.
process.
it's
What I think I've learned a lot, and this is something that I probably never would have done myself had I not been working with Take, is that I feel like as the software engineer here, it's very much build something, put it out on the internet, have a paywall, and then magically people buy it kind of thing is kind of like the dream of the software engineer. But I think I've learned from Take is more just try something when you're not even quite ready with it yet, or start pitching like an idea even to a client, like even before you've obviously discussed it beforehand and there's a kind of kernel of an idea there, but more just try something kind of thing is I feel like is more the name of the game. Don't wonder what if this, what if that kind of thing. It's like more just try something, and that has always been scary for me because it almost feels like you're lying to the customer. Again, I feel like I said this before, but you don't have the product, but you're pitching it as if you have the product, and you have
Mm.
this like very formal process. But the client doesn't really care about that. They want to purchase a house in Japan, for example. And if you can make that happen, that's all that matters. So I do feel like try something, pitch your idea to the customer, and most of the time they're already speaking to you, so it will probably work out,
Yeah, that's a
or you'll learn something at least.
yeah, no, definitely. That's a really good point. It's actually interesting because a few days ago, someone reached out to me willing to pay for a feature in my newsletter, my new newsletter.
Hey,
And yeah, yeah.
congratulations.
Thank you, thank you. And I was like, I don't have a pitch and I don't know how to price. And I was just like, but the call was in the afternoon. So in the morning, I was just like, I just created a deck and it was literally like flying with a half-built plane. What was the saying? Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Building the
Building the plane
plane.
as you're flying.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. もう本当にそういう感じ. And yeah, it worked and it was
Yeah,
Yeah,
exciting.
congratulations.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to iterate and tailor it a bit more depending on people, but yeah. So it just made me think of that experience. It's exciting to
congratulations.
do. Thank
Yeah.
you. You just have to hit the ground running. I'll go on to the next question. Um, Now that you've been operating for months now and continuing with the consultations and talking to people interested in buying in Japan, what are the biggest obstacles? This could be mental or logistical that stops folks from buying property in Japan, and to what extent are they valid?
Good question. We've found a lot of people reach out to us, and again, we kind of have a paywall, so only really serious people now come to us. We do have a consultation fee, and also when we help through the transaction, we do charge a flat fee. So the quality of customers we've been encountering are higher just because they've been willing to pay a little bit to start the process. So that it might be skewed. If we had left things open, I think it would have been very different. But we, I find that most people have the motivation. Some people do have that fear. There's always a fear of transferring $50,000 to a person you've never met in person via a website you've never used. So there's a couple leaps of faith that people have to take, but they will take them. That's what Joey and I are here for, just to reassure, hey, we did it ourselves too. It's going to be okay. But I would say, I think from my friends personally who are interested, who haven't gone through our process, it's always the overanalysis paralysis or like, hey, sounds cool. I'm not sure about it. And they just never get around to it. I think the people we deal with really have that fire in them of let's get this done. And those are the people we love helping.
Yeah, I also think there are people in life. Again, sorry, I'm saying all the things that I learned about life from my friendship with Take here. But one thing that I notice about Take in comparison to myself and other people I see is that Take is a doer. He gets things done, whereas I do feel like a lot of people, myself included, maybe not overanalyze, but spend more time analyzing stuff and maybe even have a little bit of a fear of making the wrong decision. Oh, what if it ends up being like the wrong idea, and buying a house in Japan, it ruins my life somehow. I don't know if that's my personal feel, but just like making a bad financial choice potentially. Or I do think that those type of people, and I'm going to include myself in that category, I think that does hold people back. Like potentially they love Japan, and it's just this to buy a house in another country. Like it's several large things that they need to cross over in their mind to actually make that leap and do it. And I honestly I don't think I would have ever done it had I not gone in with Take on our first house here. So I do think there are doers in life, and Take is a doer. And I think that, those are the kind of people that make these decisions and they buy the house in Japan. And I would encourage more people to be doers in life. I think I think it's better decisions. I don't think you need to think that hard on all these life decisions. Go with
No,
your gut.
none of our properties have made a single dollar yet, though. So could be a mistake, but also at the same time, I think, yeah, I agree with Joey. Like I try to focus on just if you're thinking about it, take the first next step, or else that energy is a little bit wasted. So glad to hear that, Joey. Now you're a doer now too.
Now I'm trying to be a doer. I'm trying to be a doer.
You are a doer.
No, but honestly, let's say one day you're in your deathbed and you look back on your life, it would be better if you had bought the house that you always dreamed of in Japan rather than being like, oh, I might have been able to buy a house in Japan, right? So it's very cliche and cheesy, but it's like the no. Do you remember what was that movie? It was No Regrets. Do you remember? There was a
No
tattoo
regret.
on this
Oh
guy.
yeah, it
No,
was
no
misspelled,
regret.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
No regrets or anything.
Yeah, it was like
Yeah,
a meme or something.
that person's a doer. Whoever got that tattoo, they're a doer.
Yeah,でも大
Yeah.
事、大
What
事。
was so I think a lot of it came. So we read this book around the same time that we started getting serious about buying our first Beppu property by Rick Rubin, who is not quite a music producer. I don't think he self-described himself as a music producer, but that's probably the best way to describe him for other
He's
people.
definitely a music producer. Yeah.
He like gets paid for his creative input into when a musician's coming out with an album. Anyways, he very successful in this hyper creative career of his, and he came out with a book, and I think he write in the first chapter of the book, this started out as a book to help artists become more creative, but morphed into his philosophy on life. And I think one of the things that I remember from that book or that stuck with me was he was talking about just going with your gut more in life, in the sense that, and this kind of comes back to being a doer versus a dreamer, but he says, go just make more decisions with your gut in life. And I'm not going to say it's the going to be the right decision. Sometimes it's going to be the wrong decision, but your life is going to be more interesting as a result. And who doesn't want to live a more interesting life? I think is something I remember from the book.
I got goosebumps from that, man. That's
Wow.
tingles.
Funny story about Joey. He bought the first, I told him like, Joey, you got to read
Yeah.
this book. And he bought it on eBay and he bought like this knockoff PDF formatted, like Joey, it was like, what was in the book? It was like just
Just-
nonsense, right?
I got yeah. So I was just like I was on Amazon and I guess I bought the wrong one. Maybe the price is way cheaper. I don't know. But I bought the wrong one. It came as a paper. So the real book's a hardcover. It's like about this thick. And this one was a paperback. It came like this. It was the same cover. Said I don't think it said Rick Rubin, but it was the same like image on the cover.
Logo.
And
Yeah.
it started out weird rambling about I don't know, some kind of like meditation-y type stuff. And then it quickly got like white supremacy and then very and then just like the guy had taken quotes from all these I don't know different controversial authors and I was just like what is it? I threw the book away but like I said
No,
I
you
should
should
have
have
kept
kept
it.
that.
I
You
did
should have
not
kept
want
that.
I did not want that in my
Should have
room.
kept that and sent it to Rick Rubin. He would have loved it. But
Yeah,
um,
like a lot of Nazi stuff came up and I was just like where did this come from?
can't
But
believe you
yeah,
read that
don't
far.
careful if you're searching for that book on Amazon because there's
Were you ever like, why is Take recommending me this book? Is he trying to tell me something?
Joey sent me screenshots. I'm like, Joey, bro, you got the wrong book. Like, definitely the wrong thing there.
someone's like manifesto, like it's I don't know. Yeah, careful out there, guys.
Yeah, that's so funny. Imagine like the shock when you start reading it. You're like, huh?
Yeah, is this really you
Joey had
you
that
agree with
shock.
this guy?
So everyone be careful when you're searching for that book.
Yep.
Yeah, The Creative Act by Rick Rubin, but make sure it's not the $6 one. It's the $30 one.
Uh, okay, we'll move on to the next question. AkiyaMart has been thriving because of the pure surplus of abandoned homes in Japan. That one third of homes will be vacant by 2038, which could mean that if we had neighbors, like two neighbors on both sides, one side would probably be vacant forever by 2038, which is scary to think. The aging
Yep.
population is not expected to slow down anytime soon, nor is the relatively low interest rate. So, what do your guts tell you about real estate in Japan in the coming 5 to 10 years? And what does that mean for AkiyaMart?
Yeah. Anyone listen to this, just know that real estate in Japan, as you mentioned, like because of the supply, a couple of reasons, is a depreciating asset. So if you buy something, let's say here in California, you buy a shack, it's going to go up in price likely, or more so than Japan. So anyone listening, it's maybe not the best investment you can make out of there. We do say it's an emotional investment, but tough question. Honestly, we've just really been in the space for a year, but we've been researching it every day. So Japan's got to do something. It's not going to increase its population out of nowhere, letting people in from foreign countries. And I know Japan's got its immigration kind of laws, but it's got to let people in. And I think the people we're talking to are really good people. We really do try to screen for people that we think are a good fit for Japan. And we'll say no to someone who's never been there and just wants a cheap house. We personally see when in our spot in Beppu, the neighbors love us. They approach me always because I look Japanese when Joey's Japanese is better actually. And they like see a glimmer of hope. They're like, oh, you're going to revitalize this community. There's a lot of old people in our neighborhood that really like us, I think. But I think at the core of your question, Japan's got to figure out something, whether it be helping sell these Akiyas, just buying it ourselves. It was such a difficult process. Agents are motivated by these lower commissions on these cheaper properties. And the friction of just foreigners buying is so high. So I don't know. It's a really problematic situation that doesn't have a clear solution. But I do really think that incentivizing Japanese agents to try to sell these properties to foreigners is a big one, and making it easier for foreigners to move to Japan or at least invest in Japan is a first step in the right direction. Yeah, I think that's my opinion, Joey. What do you think?
I think Japan was so close to remote work during the pandemic. If only the companies had kept up with that. I don't think these houses necessarily like foreigners are the only ones going to buy them. I think Japanese are no different from everyone else. Like they want to own, they don't want to be a renter for their entire life. I think like remote work, Japan was so close. If only they had kept that going, I think there would be a lot more young people choosing to live in the countryside. Tokyo is so overcrowded. The train to get to our place in Tama City is like one of the worst experiences I've experienced in a long time. It's really bad. That commute is terrible. And I think that forcing people to go into the office, I think a lot of even just the train congestion would be fixed a little bit if the companies would modernize a little bit and allow remote work. So I don't think foreigners are the solution. I think the solution has to come from within Japan itself. And I think there's certain things that Japan could do to help out. The one on the top of my mind is remote work, just because I really hate that train ride. In terms of your question about buying now or like where things are going to be going in the future. We've had clients ask us that as well. They're like, oh, if the population is aging faster, why don't I just buy in 10 years and it's even cheaper? I don't know what's going to happen in 10 years. No one really knows. So I can't really advise there. I just think that if most of our clients are buying for lifestyle purposes with maybe the option to get a monthly renter or short-term renter in the months while they're not there. And if most of the reason that you're purchasing is for lifestyle, why wait 10 years? I would recommend just doing it. I can't see it changing too much the prices. Like how much lower could it go? I think so. I don't know. I just encourage people to do it. Again, I feel like going back to the doers versus dreamers,
A
do it.
theme. Yeah, it's the theme of this
Yeah.
podcast, honestly. Just do it. The Nike, like just do it.
You're a doer, Joey.
But yeah. And then going back to the other thing about how is the Akiya problem going to get solved, I think there needs to be some way to encourage Japanese people to move to these or find some sort of livelihood that can be done from rural areas and smaller cities.
Yeah, definitely. I think during the pandemic, actually, the real estate in more suburban, like peripheral regions actually went up because of the amount of people who are moving out. So, like you guys said, I think there is definitely a desire for more space, probably less people, closer to, yeah.
Quick question for you. Do you feel that like one of the things that a lot of people say contributes to why there's so many abandoned homes is that Japanese people like new things. They don't want to buy an old house, they want to build a new house, they want a new car, that type of thing. Do you think that could change and Japanese will be more excited about renovating an older house?
I don't know. I can't speak for all of the Japanese population, but I do tend to feel like Shinjuku and Shinsha, like new builds and new cars, definitely has the allure of a status. It's like a status symbol as well, I think. But I also see this wave of like younger folks interested in like antique stuff and vintage things and maybe craving that nostalgia in a way from maybe their grandmother's home and their childhood and stuff. So there could be a increasing like demand for these like more lived in places and that has like the flavor and like the essence of old Japan. But I don't know for sure. Yeah.
Let's go Gen Z. Gen Z might be the generation to turn it
That'd be cool
around.
though. That'd be cool for sure. Before I go into the final lightning round of questions, I'd like to go back to an experience that kind of kickstarted AkiyaMart. Both of you were impacted by the big tech layoffs back in early 2023, and you've quoted that as the moment when you realized that you wanted to purchase a home in Japan, which then led to building AkiyaMart. Sitting here today, looking back at that decision, how do you think that event changed your values, and how did that spark that final leap of courage? And what do you think you were looking for in endeavoring on this?
Deep question. To add more context, I actually know the exact moment. I don't know about you, Joey, but Joey and I, we went on a trip to Montenegro. So my fiance purchased a kind of property near the seaside and she was working. So it was up to Joey and I, who both unemployed, were to go set it up on Airbnb. We were on like the rooftop of this like cheaply built building. The pool was not filled in. And we were like, I think we were just like drinking a beer inside the pool, Joey. And we're just like, when are we going to be together and have the bandwidth to just buy a property in Japan? And I think it's like right then and there in my mind, I was just like, all right, that was the birthplace of AkiyaMart, in my opinion. Joey, do you agree with that?
I agree, and that was the first time when I was like now, or Joey, if you're ever going to be a doer, like now's the time to to do it, kind of thing.
The birth of Joey the doer. But sorry, I forgot the rest of your question there.
No, no, not at all.
Like,
I think because I'm asking this question because there
yeah.
were a lot of people who were impacted by the layoffs, right?
Oh, yeah.
But
Mhm.
when you're unemployed you're newly unemployed and you're at this moment of like desperation, I don't think a lot of people would decide to
Buy
purchase
a house.
property. Yeah. Yeah.
True. Yeah, Joey and I are definitely not normal in some sense. So just to call that out, we've done a lot of traveling. I think our gut instinct when being free from the corporate shackles is not to go back into our room and look to get back into those shackles. But for us, it was a very freeing moment of just being like, hey, we have a little bit of disposable income from our jobs we've been hustling at. I think really anyone listening to this, like life is short. I think we were both realizing like, hey, we don't have kids. We have some disposable income. We have some bandwidth to do this. Let's just try it. And I think it definitely was not the easy route, but it was fun. And I would recommend doing it with a friend. I think this process could not have been doable. Like buying a property in a foreign country would have been very hard for me to do alone. And Joey, I feel, would be the same way. But when we did it together, it was much more palatable from a cost perspective, experience perspective, and just made it a lot more fun than just like trying to figure out how to get into this abandoned home late night, trying to clean it up and stuff. So I say, again, we keep going back to the doer thing, but just go for it. If you feel like your gut wants to go for it and bring someone along with the journey, I think it makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, to add to that, so yeah, I agree. It seems like not the smartest financial decision to buy a house after you get laid off. I had been prepping for at least quitting my job for maybe about a year and a half prior to that. I was lucky enough to be living with a friend in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and he wasn't charging me rent. So I was saving money. I did want to quit my job and try something else. I'd always wanted to try to start a business. I didn't think it would be this business or come up this fast, but I had been saving money and I have been laid off from jobs maybe 4 or 5 times in my life. So it wasn't the biggest
Joey's a
shock
pro
to
at
me.
getting laid off.
I'm a pro at getting laid off, so I didn't take it that hard. It's almost like relief actually, because you're like all of a sudden that project that oh you were worrying about 3 days ago, like you don't have to worry about that ever anymore, kind of things. I had been prepping my savings, and then it just all happened this way. But I do think that forming a plan, I guess that was tentatively a plan. Have these savings because I want to quit my job and then do something different and use that as a little bit of a buffer. So that's a loose plan that I did have there. So I think with the layoff itself didn't quite affect me, but I do think that things worked out in my life because I had formed a plan about a year and a half ago to save for a moment like this. And I didn't expect it to be this exact moment, but I was able to roll with it in a sense.
なるほど. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. We'll go into the final lightning round of questions. There are three. The first one is, if you were banished from Japan but could take one thing with you, what would it be?
From Japan to our respective country.
Yes, yes.
Okay. I love natto. So I know you can get the natto kinse or the bacteria from Amazon or whatever, but I would try to find the best natto in Japan and get that bacteria and or recipe and bring it back to the States so I could still keep eating natto anywhere. And knowing that I tried some of the best natto from Japan.
納豆大
Probably
事。
not Joey's answer. Yep.
Yeah, well, mine's food too. I almost went down some sort of hot spring onsen thing, but I think I'm gonna go food instead. Otoya's Kitchen Chef is who I'd bring back. Kitchen, I think, is a fantastic restaurant. Their menu is very broad. So the reason why I love Otoya's Kitchen so much is because it's walking distance to our Beppu house. And when I lived in the Beppu house for 2 months last year, the kitchen was under construction for that full time. I had to eat out every single meal, kind of except for breakfast. You think, oh, it's so much fun. It's not fun. It's a grind after 3 weeks of doing that. It becomes a grind. Ote's Kitchen I feel like saved my life. The menu is broad enough that you could get lots of different types of food there. You don't get bored. I was trying to eat a lot. I was trying to gain some weight. So you can get the omori rice. You can get the tampin on the side for other stuff. I think very efficient, very affordable meal. I think this kitchen is a great restaurant, and
Sponsored by Otoya.
I brought another cook back with me, but I would start at Otoya's Kitchen.
Mm-mm. It's healthy too, Otoya. It's so good.
Yeah, that's I guess that's the other thing. It's not like you feel like you're eating ramen every day.
Whoa, whoa,
Definitely.
whoa. No
Um,
ramen.
sorry.
No, no, no. Joey has this. We have this thing where we're like every time we go out and eat, Joey doesn't like noodles. I'm like, Joey, can we go get ramen? He's like, no, I'm not feeling like what? We're in Japan, man. So, anyways,
I'm with Joey on that. I prefer rice.
no. Oh my goodness.
Or
Okay.
I would like Japanese. I really love Japanese cars.
Okay.
Good price too.
Yep.
Okay, second
Jimny.
question. Sorry. Second question. What is a book that you'd recommend?
Joey already said, yeah, the Rick Rubin book, I think really, in a way, kicked this off. And it's weird timing, but really recommend that book. But I think from a business perspective, a book that we both also read recently is called Profit First.
Mm,
We're first time business owners and we were getting revenue and we're just like, oh yeah, we made $5,000. Let's spend $5,000 on a party. And that works for a little bit, but we also just had no true framework of like, how do we balance this? What do we take out for taxes? And I think Profit First really set us up and at least to know like how we should take our money and how we should structure it. So I use it
Yeah.
personally in my own personal life and my other businesses kind of thing. So Profit First was a big impact for me personally. I think both of us.
And it's extremely simple too, which is the benefit of it. It's not, oh, you need to learn bookkeeping and accounting. It is absolutely anyone can learn this and do well with your business's finances.
great.
My book,
Mm,
I'll throw a novel in there. If anybody likes Haruki Murakami novels, there's an author, Tom Robbins, who, if you like Murakami, this is like 3x Murakami. He's an American author,
3X.
but he's like more Murakami than Murakami is, if that's possible. And obviously the stories don't take place in Japan, but very much in the same vein as Murakami, but like maybe I would argue more, and that's what I really like about him. I recommend Jitterbug Perfume.
okay. I'll definitely link these three books down below then. Last question. What do you do when you need a push of courage?
Push of courage. Huh. That's a good question. I'd say, Joey, I've been really into sauna and cold plunging. I think recently I know it's a big fad, but I do think there's something there about I live in Santa Cruz, so jumping in the cold water and going surfing and like that push of just let's swallow the frog and do something uncomfortable, I think makes everything a little bit easier. Just being like, that water was freaking cold, but making this decision isn't going to be as painful as that experience was. So I think the maybe not so the sauna, but the cold plunge or jumping in cold water or a cold shower, I think that kind of kickstarts me physically, I'd say, but also mentally.
I agree with physical exercise too, and I also just think talking about it. Like I am someone that likes to clam up, but in the times where like someone has pried some information out of me when I'm worrying about something, I do feel like that makes it a little bit better. I do feel like talking about the thing you need the courage for helps as well, even though I don't want to do it. I think it helps.
It's like that first push, and then anything feels possible after, I think. That's it for the lightning round. Thank you, Taki and Joey, for sharing your story. It's been a pleasure to speak to you both again and kind of witness how powerful the synergy of like good friendship can be. Final two quick questions. How do people reach out to you? And okay, you can just answer that first. How can people reach out
Yep.
to
Contact at Akiya-Mart.com. You should be able to find it on everything. Listen to our podcast and also Instagram, LinkedIn. Everything comes back to us. So please reach out to us. We're more than happy to talk to people, hear feedback, and yeah, excited to hear from people in general.
It's great. And the last question is, how can the audience be helpful to you?
Ooh, we got some. What do you think, Joey? We have a lot of things on the roadmap that we don't know how to solve from an AkiyaMart perspective. We're currently looking for someone to project manage renovations or some way we're helping people buy, but the next step of the process is like obviously people want to renovate. So if anyone knows any handymen in Japan that are bilingual, I know it's a small subset there, or project managers who want to get in this space, that's something we're actually really looking for to help the customer journey along.
We're also looking for a muralist. If anybody paints
Oh
murals,
yeah.
we just bought a $3,500 property in Kitakyushu. This is with the guy we mentioned that helps underprivileged people find safe and affordable housing. And there's a big concrete wall out front, and Take wants to paint a mural there. I think it's a good idea too. So if anybody's a muralist and wants to stay in
Yep.
this Kitakyushu house for a little bit, we can work something out.
Yep. This could be the start of something cool. Buying Akiyas, making beautiful pieces of art and showing the world that, these are abandoned homes, but there's value behind them.
Definitely, for sure. Well, thank you, Take and Joey, so much again for the incredible work that you are both inspiring us to do, to follow our gut and do what makes sense to us. And that's it for today's podcast. Bye bye.